I think one of the things with higher education now is that for the curriculum, usually, you have your 2 years of generals. So you do, your English, your math for the liberal arts, which I failed 3 times when I was in school. And you have those introductories. And then when you go in and do your actual major, you have, your accounting 1001, accounting 2001, and so on. What is so different about the kind of curriculum that NSA uses that changes the way your students turn out?
Yeah. Well, in one sense, we're not so different. We are trying to give what has been the classical liberal arts education that has been developed over centuries and centuries and centuries in the Christian West. So we're not the experiment in one sense. Mm-hmm. We're trying to recover what this incredible heritage that we have. What has happened has been this complete change of what an education is about, where, and it is those that professionalized accounting, whatever, courses, where the college degree has become basically your professional certification. You need this degree to do that job. And I want to be careful because I think that there are places where that's appropriate. I think that, nursing, engineering, there are certain things that you need to have in that undergraduate degree necessary for that job. So I understand that in certain places, but that model has been pushed out across all college education, where every education is supposed to be an education to perform those skills. And so you've got this job, and the name of that job is in your degree. And it's there's a pea and thimble that happens here, because what you see is there's this expectation that this degree equals that job. And you get it all the way back in the recruiter's office when you're like a high school junior or senior, and you show up to the college recruiter, and he'll give you this piece of paper that has a list of all the different jobs that are out there and the annual salaries for everybody in that job. And then over here, you got the degree that gets you that job. And the idea is that if you get this degree, you'll get that job, which means you'll get that salary. And I should back up here because this is actually connected to the whole federal money thing, because there is this, college tuition is massively inflated, annual tuition of 45, 50 grand is not abnormal. How do you get a college student or a high school student to sign up for that kind of payment? Well, only way they can do it is if they take out massive student debt. But how do you get a kid who's 18 to say, I want to sign up for 200 grand in debt? It makes no sense. But the only way you can make it make sense is if you can say, well, if you get this degree, you get that job, which means you'll get that salary. So then that salary is the return on the investment, the ROI. And so students will sign up for significant debt if they believe that their degree gets them that job. But in order to make that work, schools have to deeply connect their degree to a particular job. The problem is that when you go out into the actual workforce, you realize that's a complete farce. Think about your job that you have right now. Do you have the degree for this?
No.
No. My undergraduate degree is education, chemistry. I'm the president of a liberal arts college. You go around, you ask almost anybody, what's the main set of skills that you work in now? What's the name of your undergraduate degree? They almost never line up, but everybody always thinks they're the weird one. They think that most other people have a job that they were qualified for by a degree. That's not how the real world actually works. Colleges, I don't think, do a good job of training people for professions. What education does a good job of is enculturating people. And what's happened is we've been distracted by this idea that I need that degree to get this job. And what we've been distracted from is the fact that actually that degree is at an institution that is enculturating me in a very deceptive and destructive path. And I think Christians miss that that's what's going on. So all that, it's kind of a long roundabout way to come back to what is NSA trying to do? What we're trying to do is two things. Basically, we want to create the skills, the intellectual skills not that go to that one particular job, but they could go to a variety of jobs, because I think the job force is always changing, and you're going to switch careers laterally many times over as you find out what you really want to do. You don't need at 18 to decide, I will be this for life. What you need to do is broadly educated, become the kind of person who can think critically, communicate clearly and persuasively, work hard, be able to teach yourself. Those kinds of skills, those are the things that the workforce mostly needs. So we're taking a liberal arts curriculum to create those skills, which is what the liberal arts curriculum was classically developed in order to do. So we're trying to use it the way it was intended to be used. And then the second thing is we want to enculturate them deeply in Christian faithfulness, give them a sense of like, this is the world that God made. This is my place in it. This is what obedience looks like. And I love that. So that's what we're trying to produce with that curriculum.
And what is your average, applicant or ultimate student look like, and what do they go on to do after they graduate? I'm sure it's hard to find an average, but just generally speaking.
Yeah, I wish we need to do a better job of running sort of the demographics on this, because those are hard questions to ask. I would say the average kid coming from a strong evangelical family usually has a classical education, either homeschooled or an ACCS school or something like that. Although there's 10 to 15% that kind of just fall out of the sky, public school, who knows what. So, but most of them are probably coming with a classical education of some sort. I would say there's a general academic aptitude, but not necessarily, they're not all like really exceptional elite. I think somebody who's generally capable of pouring through a book, reading through it at a decent clip, and can intelligently write a paper, they're going to do just fine at NSA. And those are the kinds of kids we're looking for. I like the kid who maybe wasn't excelling in high school, but it's because he never really was pushed, never really knew that this is, that was my experience. I was a terrible student and bombed out of college early on, until for me it was discovering like a deeper purpose for why I was here that suddenly made me capable of working. I think it's why for me I've only ever worked in nonprofit. I've never worked for a for-profit. For me, it's like I'm much more interested in a job where I'm compelled by the vision, and I can't just do a task because I was told to do it. I need to know why and be passionate about it. That kid who hasn't had that spark lit, I like getting him and challenging him, light him up a little bit, and see him come alive. As far as where they go, that one's even harder, because as I was just describing, our goal is to create the generalist who could go any number of different directions. I've seen careers where I've seen our students do really well. We've had a number go on to entrepreneurial work. I think that's a really good spot, because they're not people who need a path, established for them. I've seen a number go on to, do NSA and then do the professional graduate degree, either law or an MBA. A number have gone into finance and done quite well in finance. A number in law. I see a number of them going into media, writing, selling, creating, filming. So we've had a number of really successful graduates in media. And then also in the business world, but more on the sales side, when you create people who are good with words and like to be just generally interested, they tend to be people who sell well. And so I see a lot going there. And then some into ministry, some into education.
Yeah. So obviously there's a reason why an institution like NSA has to exist. And that's because the higher education system is largely failing young people. And you highlighted in particular this very high specialization where people are changing majors, ultimately getting different jobs, majoring in gender studies, whatever. What other issues do you see? Because there are a lot that I can see that's kind of leading young people astray, or maybe even leading them away from going to college at all?
Yeah. Well, so, built into that is that question about should everybody be going to college? And I think that's one that I think you have to put that on the table. I think a lot of colleges, because they attach the college degree to jobs, they want to say that the college degree is necessary for work. And again, that's just such a total farce. It's so clear that you don't need a degree to get a job, to get a good job, to do well in work. And so whenever I speak to prospective students, like from a recruitment perspective, I want to always put out there, maybe you don't need to go to college. I think that that's a lie that colleges constantly tell. And and parents, if I could speak to parents, you need to not be insecure about your children. They're going to do okay. And I think that a lot of times parents think that if Jimmy if he's a junior at this school in accounting, then his future's okay because he's going to be an accountant, and I know what he will be, and everything's safe. It's like, you don't know, and that degree is not locking in any future for him. It's not guaranteeing anything, and I think we need to quit with this idea that the college degrees guarantee this path of safety and whatnot. They don't, and maybe not everybody needs to be at college.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, is we need to get rid of that. I think that there's a cross section of the student population for whom a degree like a program at NSA is really helpful. It's maybe a third of the students. It's not everybody. So this idea that the college degree is necessary for everyone, I think that's one of the things that we need to toss, and colleges need to quit claiming that it's the case. The other is the professionalization of the college degree. One of the implications of it is that when you teach somebody, if I want to teach you how to perform a certain task, versus if I want to teach you how to read through this work, understand the argument, interact with it in a creative way and an intelligent and critical way, that first assignment is way easier. Like if I want to teach you the steps for whatever, it doesn't require deep thinking. It requires a very surface level walk through these steps. And our colleges, because they've become more oriented towards that kind of education, it means that our colleges have gotten significantly easier. So college degree now is not even remotely what it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It's been really, really cheapened in the level of rigor and what is being asked of you at college now. And that means, again, there's just a serious waste of money because you're just getting a piece of paper that's not actually teaching you to think. And I think that that's one of the things I see across the board at colleges is just a cheapening of what it means to be educated. They're not educating people. And it's really sad that a lot of our Christian colleges, the education is a joke. The price tag is enormous, but the education itself is really a joke.